And we're live. Sorry, folks, just trying to push my one open a little bit further there. Hello there. Just popping on a wee minute early, as usual, to check that our sound and video is okay, folks. We're just coming up to 10 o'clock. Let's see. Yes, indeed. Sorry about that. I was just popping up there to open the window. Right, there we go. So, yes, everything looks okay. We've got green for the sound machine. The picture looks okie dokie, as far as I can tell. So if anybody's out there in YouTube land, do say hello, folks. Pardon me. We'll get going once we hit 10 o'clock. And now, there we go. There's 10 o'clock. So I'll say hello, everybody. My name's Dr. Sloan. Thanks very much for joining me this evening. We're going to be looking at two chapters of Children of Dune tonight here on our science fiction station, also known as the Doghouse. Chapters 42 and 43. Of course, there are no chapter numbers in the Dune series, but chapter 42 in Children of Dune, my copy is page 286. And we'll begin with the epigraph, "There is no guilt or innocence in you." That's where we're at tonight. So I'm just trying to find it within my notes here, folks, my new notebook. Bear with me. As always, I'm badly organized. There we go. I'll just get that set up. I have to remember to try and stop hitting things like the table and the notebook as it makes noise. Feeds back there. So what we've got for you tonight is two chapters. We were meant to run with chapter 42 last week, just with me and basically optician's appointments. My eyes wouldn't kind of let me get it done, so we said we'd attach it on here this week. So we've got a very short chapter for you with chapter 42 with Farad'n and Lady Jessica on Seleucus Secundus, and then we're going to return to this process that Leto is going through at the Jacurutu Sietch. We're going to come back to him again for a much lengthier chapter with some quite interesting things in it. Everything sort of pushing the action and the tension forward, if you like, building the tension, pushing the action forward, and we're fully immersed in this process of change, I think, now with Leto the second here. So we're going to have two chapters for you tonight, 42 and 43. Some interesting things to look at. In all honesty, chapter 42 is probably going to almost be like a read-through. It's a fast chapter, and there's very little in it, to be honest with you. It has a couple of little points that are worth pointing out, I suppose, that we have been doing a kind of back and forward between the different groups that are on Seleucus Secundus with Jessica, Farad'n, and Tychonic, for example. We've had the triumvirate that we have of Irulan, Ganima, and Alia, and then also, of course, the one we've had with Leto, Gurney, and Namri. That one's going to get shook up a little bit here, but this chapter is returning once again to Seleucus Secundus, and it's an odd little chapter. And I suppose that what's worth noting about it is kind of, I suppose, the exercise that Farad'n succeeds in accomplishing at. We're going to see that mentioned again in the next chapter. So I think it'll be a fast little chapter. Hey, there's Carlos saying, "Hey, Doc." Hi, Carlos. How you doing? Thank you very much for joining us. As always, good to see you. Yes, indeed. So let's see. I'll just get on with the epigraph just to get started. And it tells us that there is no guilt or innocence in you. All of that is past. Guilt belabors the dead, and I am not the iron hammer. You multitude of the dead are merely people who have done certain things, and the memory of those things illuminates my path. This is Leto II to his memory lives after Hark al-Ada. And I suppose that it's worth noting in terms of this epigraph that in the next chapter, Leto II will address his memory lives. He gives a speech to them. So it's worth just pointing out. There's Cynthia saying, "Hi, Doc." Hi, Carlos. Hi, Cynthia. How you doing? Carlos is saying, "My lady." Thanks very much for joining us, Cynthia, as always. Yeah, just saying it's going to be a fast little chapter, this one, I think. It's interesting enough. I kind of quite like it, but it's just the pacing of it's very good, and we are getting a bunch of these little chapters here as we head towards. I don't know. I'm getting a sense of acceleration towards the conclusion of the book. Getting a feeling that things are just building up. Momentum is carrying. Carrying things forward. So, as I said, this one will probably go pretty quick, I think, folks. Oh, there was one thing. Housekeeping. There was one thing I remembered. I'm still doing my research into Harum at the minute, but something that we'd encountered recently, pardon me, and that we found a little bit inexplicable, was it was when Leto was riding the worm to Jacurutu, and he was using a flail. If you recall that, I'm just wondering, have I got a Pharaonic thing here that would have it? Anyway, the flail itself, we were kind of talking about that and wondering about it. And bear with me a wee second. Is it the crook and flail? There we go. So we were wondering why that particular tool or weapon at that point on the worm. I think that's in my previous notebook. I'll have to grab that here. Hang on a wee second. Why within Children of Dune were we suddenly introduced to this new piece of kit for worm riding? Why was Leto bashing a giant worm with a flail? I'll just leave the notebook out for now, and I'll have to go back and find it to make a wee note of it. But anyway, I have an answer for you anyway, is that we are getting certain associations with Leto and Ganima, but especially with Leto in this case with the god Osiris. Pardon me, and the crook and flail are ancient Egyptian symbols of pharaonic authority originally associated with the god Osiris. The crook, a shepherd's staff, represented kingship and the pharaoh's role as protector of his people. The flail, a rod with beads or strands, symbolized the pharaoh's responsibility to provide for the land and its people, sometimes interpreted as a weapon for maintaining order. That's just off the thing. But if you want to check that out, if you do a search on, in fact, I'll just grab this for you here, on crook and flail. There you go. That's the Wikipedia entry on it. And we were kind of wondering about why the flail, why now, what was the significance of it, for example. And if you have a wee look at that page, you'll even see the hieroglyphs for the crook and the flail. But there we go. And in particular, it says that the crook and flail are, there's an image there of them appearing on the tomb, on the coffin of Tutankhamun. So there you go. That was just a little thing it was like a new piece of frame kit. Going, what was that about? I think that's the association, by the way. Snowball effect, says Carlos. Yes, indeed. I love the snowball effect. That's a thing me and my wife firmly believe in, is that things can always get worse. If that's what you mean by the snowball effect, my friend. So there we go. That was what the flail was. We'd encountered it a few chapters back. I think it's in my previous. I'll have to go to my previous notebook to make that wee note. But it's a pharaonic symbol of authority, and that's I think honestly couldn't figure out what good it would do in hitting a worm with it, But this was Leto had produced this sort of just prior to arriving at Jacurutu. So there we go, folks. That was just a wee bit of housekeeping. So we're on Seleucia Secundus. The location is Jessica's bedroom, and it's 3 a.m. eternal, pretty much. So here we go with this. This is Farad'n. It moves of itself, Farad'n said, and his voice was barely a whisper. He stood above the Lady Jessica's bed, a brace of guards behind him. The Lady Jessica had propped herself up in bed. She was clad in a parasilk gown of shimmering white with a matching band around her copper hair. Farad'n had come bursting in upon her moments before. He wore the grey leotard, and his face was sweaty with excitement and the exertions of his dash through the palace corridors. "What time is it?" Jessica asked. "Time?" Farad'n appeared puzzled. One of the guards spoke up. "It is the 3rd hour past midnight, my lady." The guard glanced fearfully at Farad'n. The young prince had come dashing through the night-lighted corridors, picking up startled guards in his wake. "But it moves," Farad'n said. He held out his left, then his right. His left hand, then his right. I saw my own hands shrink into chubby fists, and I remembered. They were my hands when I was an infant. I remembered being an infant, but it was a clearer memory. I was reorganizing my old memories. Pardon me. "Very good," Jessica said. His excitement was infectious. "And what happened when your hands became old?" "Hmm. My mind was sluggish," he said. "I felt an ache in my back. Right here." He touched a place over his left kidney. "Right here." "You've learned a most important lesson," Jessica said. "Do you know what that lesson is?" He dropped his hands to his sides, stared at her. Then, "My mind controls my reality." His eyes glittered and he repeated it louder this time. "My mind controls my reality." "That is the beginning of prana bindu balance," Jessica said. It is only the beginning, though." "What do I do next?" he asked. "My lady," the guard who had answered her question ventured now to interrupt. "The hour," he said. "Aren't there these are Jessica's thoughts here. "Aren't there spy posts banned at this hour?" Jessica wondered. She said, "Be gone. We have work to do." "But my lady," the guard said, and he looked fearfully from Farad'n to Jessica and back. "You think I'm going to seduce him?" Jessica asked. The man stiffened. Farad'n laughed, a joyous outburst. He waved a hand in dismissal. "You heard her. Be gone." The guards looked at each other, but they obeyed. So we have exit guards there. Farad'n sat on the edge of her bed. "What next?" He shook his head. "I wanted to believe you, yet I did not believe. Then it was as though my mind melted. I was tired. My mind gave up its fighting against you. It happened just like that." He snapped his fingers. "It was it was not me your mind fought against," Jessica said. "Of course not," he admitted. "I was fighting against myself, all the nonsense I've learned. What next now?" "I confess I didn't expect you to succeed." Oh, sorry, I missed a bit there. Jessica smiled. "I confess I didn't expect you to succeed this rapidly. It's been only 8 days, and I was patient," he said, grinning. "And you've begun to learn patience too," she said. "Begun?" "You've crept over the lip of this learning," she said. "Now you're truly an infant. Before, you were only a potential, not even born." And I've made a wee note here just in kind of relation to this for the next chapter too. I think everything that we're kind of sort of reading in this chapter, we can kind of pop it over to Leto the second as well. Truly only an infant before, only a potential, not even born, this kind of thing. The corners of his mouth drew down. "Don't be so gloomy," she said. "You've done it. That's important. How many can say they were born anew?" "What comes next?" he insisted. "You will practice this thing you've learned," she said. "I want you able to do this at will easily. Later you'll find a new place in your awareness which this has opened. It will be filled by the ability to test any reality against your own demands." "Is that all I do now? Practice the..." "No. Now you can begin the muscle training. Tell me, can you move the little toe on your left foot without moving any other muscle of your body?" Pardon me. I think it's very interesting, these first lessons with Farad'n. The first, of course, with the hands. we're going to see a little bit of that in the next chapter with Leto. Almost as if Leto's going back to his rudimentary lessons, I think. But the first of the kind of the muscle is the little toe, and again, it's the little toe that Paul killed his first well, I suppose killed his first enemy with, I suppose, if that's the right way of putting it. The first person that Paul killed was killed by his little toe. There we go. That's better. If you see what I mean. I think it's interesting that the rudimentary skills of the Bene Gesserit are kind of an interesting selection of things, I think. There's Flaccid House saying, evening, dark, long week, so I'm going to lie back and drift off to your dulcet tones. No worries, Flaccid House. I think there'll be a lot of reading of this chapter anyway, but you're more than welcome, sir. Let's see. Yes, indeed, the little toe. I don't know. I think it's quite interesting. Little toe on your left foot. I can click my big toe and the toe next to it like I click my fingers. As a guitar player, I can tell you that the finger that needs the most work is this one. To get it to do all your little wee things. I've got all this thread on my wee glove here. Let me see if I got a pair of scissors sitting around. No, probably not. Let me just burn that off. Sorry, that would annoy me. There we go. What's the best song to train your little finger with? Your little left finger on this hand. If you're a guitar player, the best song to do it is Norwegian Wood by the Beatles. It's all ding ding, and it's just this little finger doing everything. That's a great way just to get that. But yeah, that's that took me about half a year to get my pinky working correctly on that hand. Took me way back when I was young. Took me 6 months to get the bar chord shape as well. That took a lot of effort. But there we go. Something similar here. He's now going to work on that little toe on the left foot. I like that. It just made me think of being a musician, trying to get that little finger working. Getting the muscle memory for it, Now you can begin the muscle training. Tell me, can you move the little toe on your left foot without moving any other muscle on your body? Oh, that's how bad my hand is. There we go. She saw a distant expression come over his face as he tried to move the toe. He looked down at his foot presently, staring at it. Sweat broke out on his forehead. A deep breath escaped him. I can't do it. Yes, you can, she said. You will learn to do it. You will learn every muscle in your body. You will know these muscles the way you know your hands. He swallowed hard at the magnitude of this prospect. Then, what are you doing to me? What is your plan for me? I intend to turn you loose upon the universe, she said. You will become whatever it is you most deeply desire. He mulled this for a moment. Whatever I desire? Yes, that's impossible. I was wondering why. There's this in Farad'n recalls his infant memories and is rearranging his memories. If I remember correctly, the infant brain creates many more synaptic connections that are retained later on. He is recovering this capacity, perhaps. And there's Chaya saying, Shalom, all Shalom, Chaya. Good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us, as always. Good to see you safe and well. Yes, indeed, that's an interesting point. I've got a lot of memories from when I was, goodness, probably about 2 onwards. Yeah. And I'm kind of trying to explore around them to see what else I can remember from that age, but that's pretty young. It's an interesting thing trying to, how far back can you work your own memory? So yeah, whatever you desire, what are you doing to me? What's your plan for me? I'm going to let you loose upon the universe, just like she's done with her children before. Um, you will become whatever it is you most deeply desire. Whatever I desire, yes, that's impossible, says Farad'n. Too good to be true, isn't it? Um, Unless you learn to control your desires the way you control your reality, she said. And she thought, there, let his analysts examine that. They'll advise cautious approval, but Farad'n will move a step closer to realization of what I'm really doing. And I've written next that, which is, what is she up to? He proved her surmise by saying, it's one thing to tell a person he'll realize his heart's desire. It's another thing to actually deliver that realization. Uh, you've come farther than I thought, Jessica said. Very good. I promise you, if you complete this program of learning, you'll be your own man. Whatever you do, it'll be because that's what you want to do. And I've written next to that, that's very vague. And her thoughts here. And let a truth sayer try to pry that apart. And she thought, and now we know why it's so vague. You can do what you want to do, be your own man, this kind of thing. I think the interesting part of the statement before that is, I suppose a part of this is Jessica's trying to emphasize about control of your own desires, control of your own reality. For Adam's response there is, it's one thing to tell a person he'll realize his heart's desire. It's another thing to actually deliver that realization. Um, as much as she's saying you've come further than I thought, I don't think quite far enough there. The Farad'n is expecting her to deliver whatever it is that he desires, I suppose. And ultimately, I think the whole goal here is some kind of self-realization of the thing for Farad'n from Jessica, I think. But she's building, I don't know, how would you put it, building a perfect beast or something like that. She's building I think she's building an individual who's capable of surviving at the court of the God Emperor, basically, with Leto and Ganima, who might just live more than a day in their company, you know. There's Babs Barrow saying, evening y'all, evening Babs, thanks very much for joining us. How you keeping? We've just got started really, but we are actually piling through this very little short chapter. There's not too much to say about it, I'm afraid. But as I said, we got Jessica's thoughts here. Let a truth sayer try to pry that apart. So very good, I promise you. If you complete this program of learning, so it's an if, there's an if statement there, you'll be your own man. You belong to yourself. Whatever you do, it'll be because that's what you want to do. And of course. So vague, but also quite obvious, I think. It's not really selling anything there within that statement. This is Farad'n. He stood up, but the expression he bent upon her was warm, a sense of camaraderie in it. Do you know what I realized today? Sorry, I mean, it was last week when I wrote these notes. Here's a weird one. I know the word camaraderie. I've said it in conversations a few times, I suppose. It occurred to me when I wrote the word down, and I know how to spell it and all, that I don't think I'd ever. This is a weird one. In my own head, something went off that said, I don't think you've ever written the word camaraderie down on a paper before. And I'm serious. And I thought, that's a weird thing to think. Seen it on paper, read it, know how to spell it, encountered it many times over the years. But it just occurred to me that I don't think I'd ever written it down, not once. It was an odd occurrence to have in my little mind, I suppose. And I'm trying to think of it, honestly, the thought that it came into my mind in relation to that, I was kind of wondering, I wonder, is that true? As my brain kind of went, hey, you've never written that word down before. It was the first time, strange wee thing. There's Gillian Thompson saying, hi all. Hi, Gillian, how are you? Thanks very much for joining us. We're just piling through chapter 42 at the moment. Not finding an answer to life, the universe, and everything, sadly. But it's going pretty fast. It's pretty much like a read-through, you know. So he stood up with the expression he bent upon her was warm, a sense of camaraderie in it. You know, I believe you. Damned if I know why, but I do. I won't say a word about the other things I'm thinking. I wrote next to that, which are. I wonder what that is. Jessica watched his retreating back as he let himself out of her bedchamber. She turned off the glow globes, lay back. This Farad'n was a deep one. He'd as much as told her that he was beginning to see her design, but he knew he was joining her conspiracy of his own volition. So I think that's what we're picking up on there when he says, or what she's picking up for us, if you like, when he says, "I won't say a word about the other things I'm thinking." It's kind of, I know what you're doing, but I'm okay with it, basically. So joining her conspiracy of his own volition. So this is the Jessica plan, as I kind of put it, I think recently, and it's in full swing, isn't it? At the moment. And we get Jessica's thoughts here just to end this little chapter. It's very short, very fast little chapter. Wait until he begins to learn his own emotions, she thought. With that, she composed herself for the return to sleep. The morrow, she knew, would be plagued by casual encounters with palace personnel asking seemingly innocuous questions. Very little, as I said, nothing major within this chapter at all, just that Farad'n's picking up on his training. 8 days have passed since he's begun, basically, if you like. And the way that Jessica is starting to mold this young man of House Carino, whatever way that she's planned to do it, it's working. And he's happy enough with it. He's happy enough picking up these skills, not 100% sure what she's doing, but happy enough to be a part of it, joining her conspiracy of his own volition, of his own free will, as is put here. So that's an interesting little thing there. And there we go. That's the fastest chapter ever, I think, folks, isn't it? Less than, well, 26 minutes full on. So that's interesting. And again, as I said, we have a bunch of these little chapters that's going to drive us forward a bit quicker towards the end of the book, I think. So chapter 33. Oh, let me get some precious bodily fluids here. Oh, that's the stuff. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. No, interesting little chapter, this one, I think. Well, it's not little at all, is it? A fair bit of work on this one. I was still scribbling away at this till about 6 o'clock this evening. And we've got some interesting things to have a wee natter about. We've got another question about Harum again. I'm still working on the Harum problem. I've found a connection with the root, HRM, to at least one Egyptian pharaoh, but also in general to Horus. Pardon me. In terms of Horus names, which is possibly the way that it led me to Cheops, which is my kind of candidate, if you like, though I haven't been able to prove it. So I'm on the hunt for that at the minute. But it's just to let you know, I'm still working on it. And well, we're going to see it in this chapter. It's possible that Harum gets dumped. I'm not too sure if I'm recollecting this correctly. And I suppose within my PhD, it's a very, very small thing. I've just mentioned them a couple of times briefly. I had to dump so much stuff, so much work from it, that I think my source has disappeared as well, as I've said to you. I don't, yeah, we're going to keep investigating. And as I said, we have another candidate from the next book. I did a wee bit of a search within God Emperor of Dune. I think there's no instances of the term Harum within the book. But what we're looking for is that ancestor, if you like. We have a candidate with an Ashurbanipal the first, the new Assyrian king. But I'm going to keep working at it and hopefully try and present you the evidence, etc., that we have. But yeah, Harum's. We're going to see Harum not behaving himself in this chapter. So here's our epigraph, folks. This one, our setting is about 1 kilometer from Jacurutu Sietch, on the sand. It's nighttime and it's before dawn. So epigraph number 43. Humankind periodically goes through a speed up of its affairs, thereby experiencing the race between the renewable vitality of the living and the beckoning vitiation of decadence. In this periodic race, any pause becomes luxury. Only then can one reflect that all is permitted, all is possible. So things speed up, they accelerate, they get out of hand. I agree with that. Um, Things do have a way of speeding up, snowballing, accelerating, getting out of hand. Very, very easy. Um, mm, yes, indeed. As I'm sure we're all aware. And this is taken from the Apocrypha of Muad'Dib. Let me see, bear with me a second. I just wanted to check. Vitiation, that's a word I wasn't overly familiar with. To vitiate something is essentially to mar or damage it in some way. So the speed up of affairs, thereby experiencing humanity periodically goes through the speed up of its affairs, thereby experiencing the race between, and the two things that the race is between are one, the renewable vitality of the living, and two, the beckoning vitiation of decadence. So that vitiation refers to the act of rendering something invalid, ineffective, or impaired quality. It can apply to legal documents, contracts, or even moral standing. So the act of rendering something invalid. To mar or damage it in some way. Let's see. Reduction in the value or an impairment in the quality of something. There we go. Glad I looked that up. That's an interesting word. Nearly missed that one. Apocrypha, then, as we've had a wee chat about before. Apocrypha basically means something that's hidden away, secreted away. Two words. Apo is the Greek word for away, and kryptos, hidden or secret, or cryptography, etc., etc. Apocrypha also refers to sort of how would you put it? Apocryphal, hidden, non-canon biblical books. Would that be the best way of putting it? Or books that are related to stories from the Bible that aren't considered canon by the church. So there's all sorts of apocryphas, etc. It's not, again, same with apocalypse. It's not the end of the world. It's something that's hidden. Yeah, that's why you get the revelation of an apocalypse, if you like, the revealing of something that's hidden, if you like. So there we go. So the Apocrypha of Muad'Dib, the hidden works, if you like, the secret works of Muad'Dib. So in this periodic race, any pause, so any kind of slowdown of this speed up of affairs that happens to mankind periodically becomes a luxury, which allows people to reflect that all is permitted and all is possible. Anything can happen, basically. That's an interesting one. And again, we have that. I think this reflects some of the stuff that Frank read in relation to one of the books that's an influence on Dune. Bear with me a wee second, because I always forget this book's name. Where are we? Where'd you go? Station stuff, is that it? Oh, no. Sorry, bear with me a wee second. Oh, I forgot. Oh, that's some stuff on Middle Egyptian. Sorry. No, I'll tell you what, not worry about that. Oh no, sorry, I've actually lost my train of thought there, so I can't even remember what I was about to look. Oh no, I've got it. Sorry, my old memory. Apologies, folks. Sorry, I got distracted by some other stuff there. Right, I know what that is. Bear with me a second. Do, 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 do. There we go. That's you. Oh goodness, sorry. I hate it when I lose track of my memory. There we go. The Sexual Cycle of Human Warfare by Norman Walter from the Meter Press is available online in terms of PDFs, by the way. Again, it's a book that's pretty much discredited, etc. There's a bit of blurb here. Let's see. Cannot fail for it to startle, for it opens with a new approach to war, that problem of headlong urgency in our atomic age. Sweeping aside conventional outworn theories of the cause of international strife, the author reveals to us that war is neither more nor less than a titanic sexual act. War, he maintains, stands in the same biological relationship to the vast organic body of society as sexual activity to the body of the individual. Like the individual sexual urge, war too is cyclic, periodic, and like the individual urge, it is marked by a gathering mental tension that bursts into physical eruption. Were this revolutionary conception no more than a daring freak of thought, it would still command our attention for its stark originality of design. But it's more than that. It is a closely reasoned scientific argument that must either be refuted or accepted. One thing is certain in these dangerous times: it cannot be ignored. As we read these pages, we have a sense of rending veils, of shifting phantasmagoria, a presentiment. Here at last we emerge upon the terrifying but true epoch-making truth. The question remains, can we adjust ourselves to this sweeping new conception, adjust ourselves in time, or must the hydrogen bomb and the insensate self-destruction of mankind add their own dread postscript to the grim prophetic argument of this book? So there you go, that's the blurb on the inside panel, if you like, of the Sexual Cycle of Human Warfare, saying that this book is dynamite. As I said, there's PDFs of this online, and one's black and white and one's in color. There we go. Yeah, it's been refuted, I think, pretty much, pretty much. But we're seeing sort of aspects of that here, I think. Speed up of affairs, etc. That periodic race. Of course, it kind of seems like Farad'n is almost a substitute for Paul in some ways to Jessica. Yeah, it is interesting. I was kind of thinking in Farad'n in terms of, how would you put it? In terms of first principles, if you see what I mean. Here's somebody at the beginning of a Bene Gesserit education, if you like. And what is it? What's lesson one? Is always an interesting thing. Lesson one is the hands. Lesson two is the little toe. This is where they begin. So I thought that was quite interesting. In order to be able to control one's reality, and then to mentally, and then to control one's physical characteristics, if you like. Yeah, that little toe. Let me see. Chaya is saying the Apocrypha of Muad'Dib is very Kabbalistic. Life is an existential struggle between life force energies and death force energies. You get a wee bit of that within this chapter, actually, with the nature of the trance and reality, if you like, between for Leto, what's more attractive to him in a sense, almost, Yeah, I don't know too much about, was it Kabbalism? Is that it? Is that what it's called? Oh, God, hang on. Kabbalah, is that it? I don't know nothing about it at all. Oh, is it Madonna was into it? Is that it? Yes, there we go. Jewish mystical tradition explores the hidden aspects of the Torah and the relationship between God and the universe. The nature of God, creation, the soul, and the path to spiritual enlightenment. Of According to the Jewish Chronicle, is often described as a received tradition, as rooted in esoteric interpretations of Jewish scripture and oral tradition. There we go. Oh, different types of Kabbalah, apparently. There we go. Yeah, I'm going to have to be doing a bit of reading on this stuff soon, not the chat. Something said from the last chapter, it moves of itself and has loss of the sense of time. Key philosophical question here. The relationship of motion and time, or the perception of motion and the perception of time. Yeah, perception. It's an interesting thing. Yes, as I said, I've experienced it a few times. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Perception, it's got to be, isn't it? I think it's not the time, but I didn't speed up through time or anything like that. It's just my perception. I was able to react to things very quickly, I think. But yes, indeed. The relationship between motion and time, between movement and time, I couldn't agree more, Cynthia. It's a really interesting thing, you know. Right, goodness, when I was about 23, 22, 23, my car got hit in a 30-mile-an-hour zone. I was driving that way, and the guy banged straight into me like that. And he hit me on a Volvo at about 60 miles an hour. There's nothing left of my car except this tiny little space that I managed to crawl out of. And every single little detail of that accident is ingrained in my brain. Everything happened in slow motion, and I was kind of able to go, oh, goodness, the car is getting crashed. Oh no, I better move a bit more. You know, oh, that's not looking good. I'll move a wee bit more like this. It was kind of weird that the way, and then once it stopped that way, the car kept pushing me, and I had a wall coming at me the other direction, and it was all super slow-mo. If you see what I mean, well, to me it was just normal, but I was able to react. And how I got out of that car crash without a mark on me. You know, not a single scratch. There's I was on my way to a holiday as well, so the car got towed back to my house, and nobody saw me for 2 months. A lot of people thought I was dead because of the car, you know. But how I got out of it's incredible. I had a similar thing, sort of saving my dad's life. Actually, everything slowed, is able to move. But yeah, the cost to me is a major throwing up a few weeks afterwards for a long. Just keep throwing up and throwing up. But it is an interesting thing. It's the part of, well, in this case, I think the exercise for Farad'n was more of one of the imagination, I think. That's the way I would look at it. Controlling his mental reality. But the toe thing, I still think the little toe thing quite funny in the Dune series, you know. So the first thing that Leto says, and we got his thoughts here to start with, is kind of important, and he tells us as much. I suppose the touch of sand is important, Leto told himself. If we just remember that in relation to the character of Sabiha when we meet her, pardon me, where this kind of comes up again. But I think it's this connection to the sand, connection to the planet. He could feel the grit beneath him, where he sat beneath a brilliant sky. They had force-fed him another heavy dosage of melange, and Leto's mind turned upon itself like a whirlpool. An unanswered question lay deep within the funnel of the whirlpool. Why do they insist I say it? Gurney was stubborn, no doubt of that, and he'd had his orders from his lady Jessica. Now, I've scribbled down here, this is a bit interesting, because this is the situation here. And I've written down here, this is the second. I've wondered about this, we've talked about it, and here it is, folks. This is another iteration of the Baron Harkonnen in someone else's other memory. So we've got the Baron Harkonnen, the original, who's dead. We've got the Baron Harkonnen, who has taken over Alia. And here is another one, but we said theoretically that there could be a couple more of them out there. And it's been so long since I've read this book. I'm really starting to enjoy these little revelations that I don't remember. So here we go. They brought him out of the sietch into the daylight for this lesson. He had the strange sensation that he let his body take the short trip from the sietch, while his inner being mediated a battle between the Duke Leto I and the old Baron Harkonnen. They'd fought within him, through him, because he would not let them communicate directly. The fight had taught him what had happened to Alia. Poor Alia. So I've just made a wee note here. First of all, pity for Alia again. This is his aunt here. Poor Alia, sympathy for her. And that we've got his grandfather kicking off with his great-grandfather, having a right old fight, the old feud. The Art of Canley, excuse me, is not dead. In fact, the Art of Canley is fully go with the dead. It's interesting. I think it's really interesting that the original Duke Leto and the Baron Harkonnen, they're both dead and they're still having a go at each other inside someone else's memory. They just can't let it go. So the fight had taught him what had happened to Alia. Poor Alia. Leto's thoughts here is, I was right to fear the spice trip, he thought. Of course, they've been putting it into him, haven't they? This is the force fed him at this point. A welling bitterness toward the Lady Jessica filled him. Her damned gone Jamar. Fight it and win, or die in the attempt. She couldn't put a poison needle against his neck, but she could send him into the valley of peril which had claimed her own daughter. Snuffling sounds intruded upon his awareness. They wavered, growing louder, then softer, louder, softer. There was no way for him to determine whether they had current reality or came from the spice. So this is his problem here. What's real and what isn't? Where's the anchor of himself in reality, in the world, in the now, and what's the trip? What's the the hallucination? So we get the word trip in here. I think was kind of interesting, and Frank's been running with it. I did like the snuffling sounds. It was that nice onomatopoeia, that snuffling. Leto's body sagged over his folded arms. Excuse me. He felt hot sand through his buttocks. There was a rug directly in front of him, but he sat on open sand. A shadow lay across the rug. Namri. I've written here, no, it's not Namri. But that's who he believes it is at this point. Leto stared into the muddy pattern of the rug, feeling bubbles ripple there. His awareness drifted on its own current through a landscape which stretched out to a horizon of shock-headed greenery. His skull thrummed with drums. He felt heat, fever. The fever was a pressure of burning which filled his senses, crowding out awareness of flesh until he could only feel the moving shadows of his peril. Namri and his knife. Pressure. Pressure. Leto lay at last suspended between sky and sand, his mind lost to all but the fever. Now he waited for something to happen, sensing that any occurrence would be a first and only thing. Hot, pounding sunshine crashed brilliantly around him, without tranquility, without remedy. And we get Leto's thoughts here. Where is my golden path? Everywhere bugs crawled, everywhere. My skin is not my own. He sent messages along his nerves, waited out the dragging other person responses. Up ahead, he told his nerves, I was kind of wondering, is that what that's supposed to say there? It didn't really make any sense to me, to be honest with you. Up head, he told his nerves, or just lift my head up, is possibly what I got there. Up head, he told his nerves, yeah. Oh, let me catch up your comments, folks, here a second. Oh, no, so it's okay, just one. Oh yeah, Chai was saying, we were talking about motion and time there from Cynthia. Chai was saying Kabbalah's teachings of Chazadut, various branches of study. Farad'n pushes imaginations beyond logic and rational analytical thought and can breach time to view motion. Time can be only be perceived through motion. Oh, I suppose you're right. Yeah, I was trying to think about it. I mean, time is a funny thing. Even our clocks aren't time. They're just machines that again measure a certain amount of movement, aren't they? Yeah, time's a funny one, isn't it? It's something. Everyone else there. What I'm finding interesting at the minute is it seems that the world of physics. Um, I'm going to assume most of us have grown up kind of in the 20th century and our understanding of the universe from that. And it seems that an awful lot of it's kind of up in the air at the minute, and some of the old kind of discarded theories and discredited theories seem to be bouncing back. The universe seems to be a lot older than we thought it was. Um, there's all sorts of oddball things going off at the minute within the world of physics. It's kind of interesting. Time. Time, was it as Douglas Adams said, time is an illusion, lunchtime doubly so. Yes, indeed. Aye, starts to mess with your head in a good way, I think. So up head, he told his nerves. I think that's maybe just trying to get his head, a head which might have been his own, crept upward. There we go. I should kind of read on a bit, shouldn't I? Looked out at patches of blackness in the bright light. Someone whispered, "He's deep into it now." No answer. Burn, fire, sun, building heat on heat. Yeah, I quite like that. Nice little bit of writing. Slowly outbending the current. Sorry, let me do that again. So burn. Someone whispered, "He's deep into it now." Sorry, let me just grab a marker here. I forgot to highlight that bit. Not the right color, but it'll do. There we go. So someone whispered, "He's deep into it now." No answer. Burn, fire, sun, building heat on heat. Slowly, outbending, the current of his awareness took him drifting through a last screen of green blankness, and there across low folding dunes, distant no more than a kilometre beyond the stretched out chalk line of a cliff, there lay the green burgeoning future, upflung, flowing into endless green, green swelling, green, moving outward endlessly. I did a doodle for that. There we go. There it is. There's our green. An awful lot of green there. I kind of get it. It reminds me on that manically depressed artist from the from the Fast Show. He's always out painting something and then just starts going black. It's all black, and black. Everything's black. Green, by the way, folks, just to remind us, within the Dune universe, is the color that represents life, death and life, if you like. Is that the way of putting it? Yeah. So we have an awful lot of green there. And whenever we go in to meet Sabiha, She'll be dressed in a green robe. We get the kind of use of green at kind of key moments of peril within the Dune series. Within the first Dune novel, especially within the Ornithopters, their cockpits are always kind of illuminated green, this kind of thing. We've had a wee mention, I think, about that colour before in Dune Messiah. So the current of his awareness took him drifting through a last screen of green blankness, and there across low folding dunes, distant no more than a kilometre beyond the stretched out chalk line of a cliff, there lay the green burgeoning future, upflung, flowing into endless green, green swelling, green, moving outward endlessly, this green future. I think that's kind of interesting. Again, I kind of is it a death and life and death, this kind of thing. In all of that green, there was not one great worm. So again, we're kind of getting the revelation of what's going on with the ecology of Arrakis here through Leto's visions. So in all of that green, there was not one great worm. Riches of wild growth, but nowhere Shai-Hulud. Leto sensed that he had ventured across old boundaries into a new land which only the imagination had witnessed, and that he looked now directly through the very next veil which a yawning humankind called unknown. Yawning humankind. Almost as if it's bored, is that it? Bored or else tired, I was thinking there. That was an interesting word to put in. Just a yawning humankind. I was actually thinking I'm wondering, is that a misprint? Dawning humankind called unknown, possibly. No, it probably is yawning. It was a bloodthirsty reality. This is Leto. He felt the red fruit of his life swaying on a limb, fluid slipping from him, and the fluid was the spice essence flowing through his veins. So this metaphor of the red fruit of his life, if you like, swing on the fluid slipping from him is the spice, and this is life essence, if you like. Spice is life to him. Without Shai-Hulud, no more spice. He had seen a future without the great grey worm serpent of Dune. He knew this, yet could not tear himself from the trance to reel against such a passage. Abruptly his awareness plunged back away from such a deadly future. His thoughts went into his bowels, becoming primitive, moved only by intense emotions. Pardon me. He found himself unable to focus on any particular aspect of his vision or his surroundings, but there was a voice within him. It spoke an ancient language, and he understood it perfectly. The voice was musical and lilting, but its words bludgeoned him. So this is the voice within Leto. It's not the present which influences the future, thou fool, but the future which forms the present. You have it all backward, since the future is set, an unfolding of events which will assure that future is fixed and inevitable. I'll just read that again. You have it all backward, since the future is set, an unfolding of events which will assure that future is fixed and inevitable. The words transfixed him. Let me just make sure I read that correctly there. Unfolding of events which will assure that future is fixed and inevitable. Yep, that's fine. The words transfixed him. He felt terror rooted in the heavy matter of his body, but this he knew his body still existed. By this he knew his body still existed, but the reckless nature and enormous power of his vision left him feeling contaminated, defenseless, unable to signal a muscle and gain its obedience. He knew he was submitting more and more to the onslaught of those collective lives whose memories once had made him believe he was real. Fear filled him. He thought that he might be losing the inner command, falling at last into abomination. Leto felt his body twisting in terror. So it's interesting. Who is the person that's speaking to him like this from within? We're not told. Voice within. It's not the present which influences the future, thou fool, but the future which forms the present. You have it all backward, since the future is set. An unfolding of events which will assure that future is fixed and inevitable. So we get real terror. We've got terror a few times here, a couple of times for Leto. Fear. He's a scared. The part of him is as a scared 9-year-old boy here. Felt his body twisting in terror. He had come to depend on his victory and the newly won benevolent cooperation of those memories. They had turned against him, all of them, even royal Harum, whom he'd trusted. He lay shimmering on a surface which had no roots, unable to give an expression of his own life. He tried to concentrate upon a mental picture of himself, was confronted by overlapping frames, each a different age, infant into doddering ancient. He recalled his father's early training. That's Paul. Let the hands grow young, then old. So that's exactly what we were saying. Now this is Farad'n's lesson that he's been getting in the previous chapter from Jessica. And again, it's a lesson that's being recalled here to help him. But he's basically, this is the interesting thing, and I don't remember this at all. So as I said, I'm hitting this chapter at a time. So I thought I got a nice little surprise here from Frank. And okay, so the other memory have turned on him, and Harum, Harum, who we're trying to figure out who that is at this point, has also turned on him, has betrayed him. Oddly enough, he's also got within him, in addition to that fact, Leto the First and the Baron Harkonnen kicking off and basically having a little war within him, which I think is kind of funny. But yes, he'd come to depend upon his victory and newly won benevolent cooperation of those memories. So it's a recent victory he's had over the collective unconscious within him, and it's been false, if you like. It's given him a false sense of security, if you want. But I think they've been waiting for their opportunity to act, and they have done. And Royal Harum has not bothered to keep them in check. So as I said, folks, we're going to keep working on Harum. And we'll even if we don't get a proper answer, we'll try and present our findings to you soon, hopefully. Trying to say we measure time by celestial movements of the sun, years, moon, months, and rotation of the earth, days. Yes, indeed, movement. I've got a wee orrery here, somewhere way up there somewhere. Can you see it from here? No, I suppose it's just a wee one of the earth and the moon, and use that to explain, days and years, etc. to students. And so they said, and as per Einstein, we measure time via the speed of light, space-time. See, the speed of light in a vacuum squared, isn't it? For E equals mc squared. Constant. Yeah. As I said, I'm finding it interesting that a lot of the stuff that I've kind of read about, the I suppose what you would call the popular science that that you tend to pick up. Of an interesting little science shelf here. I must show you sometime. It's nothing special, but I've got like the New York Public Library Science Desk reference book there, for example. I've got some nice collections of scientific papers. I must have a nosy, a lot of them from the 20th century. But yeah, it's very interesting to see things are all up in the air, aren't they? There's new theories that we might be inside a black hole, all sorts of stuff. It's kind of made it interesting again. I think, but yes, indeed, time and movement. Now, it sort of becomes the point that if you could step outside the universe and hold it in your hand again, would you see it? Would time exist at all? Would you see it in its entirety, from beginning to end? Is one thing. If you could step outside of the universe, could you step outside of time? Space time, yes, indeed. Oh, it could be a book on that over there somewhere. Space time and space time. It's called by Scar. No, SK, is it Slar or Scar? Yeah, must have a wee nosy over there. Set of books I don't look at. I'm reading at the minute, folks. Just to let you know, by the way, just finished the Stainless Steel Rat again, which I adore. Read it real quick, wee punchy little novel, 150 odd pages. Went piling through it, and I've decided I don't have the next one, but I've decided to jump into the Stainless Steel Rat Saves the World. Just a little kind of interlude between some of the other things that I'm reading at the minute. But yeah, I'm looking for something. I've got some good sci-fi lined up to read at the minute, but I'm looking for something else to get my teeth into. I'm trying to think of what sort of thing to read. Thoughts. Let's see. So they turned against him, all of them, even royal Harum, whom he trusted. He lay shimmering on a surface which had no roots, unable to give an expression of his own life. He tried to concentrate upon a mental picture of himself, was confronted by overlapping frames, each a different age, infant into doddering ancient. He recalled his father's early training, let the hands grow young, then old. But his whole body was immersed now in this lost reality, and the entire image progression melted into other faces, the features of those who had given him their memories. A diamond thunderbolt shattered him. Leto felt pieces of his awareness drifting apart, yet he retained a sense of himself. Somewhere between being and non-being, hope quickening, he felt his body breathing. In, out. He took a deep breath. Yin. He let it out. Yang. Somewhere just beyond his grasp lay a place of supreme independence, a victory over all of the confusions inherent in his multitude of lives. No false sense of command, but a true victory. He knew his previous mistake now. He had sought power in the reality of his trance, choosing that rather than face the fears which he and Ganima had fed in each other. Fear defeated Alia. And I've written next to this, of course, it's the mind killer, isn't it? But the seeking after power spread another trap, diverting him into fantasy. He saw the illusion. The entire illusion process rotated half a turn, and now he knew a center from which he could watch without purpose, the flight of his visions, of his inner lives. So he's tried to seek power, if you like, rather than in the real world and deal with things there. He's got the real world confused with the trance world, if you like, which is an internal world. Because he's tried to seek power there, that's caused this kickoff. I think that's how I interpret it of the other memory, and that they've all tried to, at this moment of weakness, if you like, where he's pretty much incapacitated. They've had a go. They're fighting each other. They're trying to take control, and he recalls his father's early training. Let the hands, that control your own reality, if you like. That's the lesson from the hands. So he's able to find, by doing this, by realizing that he has kind of created a trap for himself, he's able to break free of it, if you like. Again, that reiteration of, but the first sort of, step in being, was it avoiding a trap, is being aware of it. But the Atreides tend to step into those traps rather than avoiding them, So the illusion process rotated half a turn. Now he knew a center. So within him, he has a center from which he could watch without purpose the flight of his visions of his inner lives. So it's like he's kind of created an island of peace out. That's what I got from that within him, that he can observe and check out the inner lives, the multitude, and do so safely without them bothering him. Elation flooded him. He's a happy bunny. It made him want to laugh, but he denied himself this luxury, knowing it would bar the doors of memory. Ah, my memories, he thought. I have seen your illusion. You no longer invent the next moment for me. You merely show me how to create new moments. I'll not lock myself on the old tracks. So I suppose the constant process of checking out old memories, it's a bit like the curse of prescience that Paul has. It would be that you would be forever locked constantly in the past, and that would be dictating what you did now, in the same way where Paul was never present, really, truly in the present, because he was always had his head somewhere in the future. Yeah. So he's figured it out. You no longer invent the next moment for me. You merely show me how to create new moments and not lock myself on the old tracks. So really, I suppose the whole point of this kind of all of this testing that Jessica has created through her plan, her conspiracy, if you like, is to see if there is a core self of Leto within himself, if you like, or is he simply an amalgamation of other people's memories? Is there no real core of Leto himself? And this is that core personality. The thing that Gurney's looking for, anyway, I think that Jessica wants to find, that it's emerging, that it's learning how to keep itself afloat and amongst all of these multitude of lives, take control of his own life and his own body, and not an illusion of control. How does it put a place of supreme independence, a victory over all the confusions inherent in his multitude of lives? No false sense of command, which is what he had before, but a true victory. He's in charge now, they're his. Before that's what he thought was the case, it wasn't so. Now it seems that he's got there. This thought passed through his awareness as though wiping a surface clean, and in its wake he felt his entire body an Einfalla, which reported in most minute detail on every cell, every nerve. He entered a state of intense quiet. In this quiet he heard voices, knowing they came from a great distance, but he heard them clearly as though they echoed in a chasm. One of the voices was Halleck's. Perhaps we gave him too much of it. Namri answered, we gave him exactly what she told us to give him. Perhaps we should go back out there and have another look at him. Halleck, Sabiha is good at such things. She'll call us if anything starts to go wrong. Namri, I don't like this business of Sabiha. Halleck, she is a necessary ingredient. Namri. Now, I thought that was interesting. First of all, that's a little stylization that we've not seen Frank use before. We're kind of getting Leto's sense of these voices, not being able to see who's going on, and he's identifying the name of the speaker for us at the end of each part of speech here. So it's a nice little stylism that Frank puts in there. It's a new little thing, something new in the writing. Einfalla. Einfalla is to occur or come to mind like a memory, a notion, or a dream, a memory of the thing. It can also mean to invade. Sorry, it's a German word. It comes from the word ein, which is a or one, and fallen, which is to fall or drop. So it's a thing that comes to mind, like a notion, an idea, that kind of thing. Does that make sense? An Einfalla. Where are we? And in its wake, he felt his entire body an Einfalla, which reported in most minute detail on every cell. So, a kind of notion, a dream, a memory, if you like, that reported on every detail on every cell, every nerve. So that's what we have there, Einfall, a German word. Um, Sabiha, the name of the character that we're going to meet shortly, is Namri's niece. Is an Arabic name, female given name in Arabia, Turkey, and Pakistan, and it means morning, which I think links into a chunk of the kind of things that we've been getting with the dawn and Eos, etc., um, within the last few chapters as well, that kind of mythological imagery. I don't know if it was named after anybody in particular. I had meant to have a wee nosy at Sabres of Paradise just to see if there was anything in that. But just in terms of ladies called, there's Sabiha Gawkin, who's a pilot, 1913 to 2001. But there's a Princess Sabiha Sultan, 1894 to 1971. She was daughter of Mehmed VI, who's the last leader of the Ottoman Empire. And we tend to have a lot of Ottoman stuff within these stories, don't we? But that's where the name is. Yeah, just having a wee nosy at that stuff. So, and we have this nice little stylization by Frank within the writing. That Leto identifies the speakers for us. So they said, interesting that Leto acknowledges the fear feedback loop when he is with Ganima. Perhaps they needed to separate it in order for both to find paths free from this fear. It's an interesting point. Yeah, I think that's what. But for me as well, it has me still rooting for Leto. Does that make sense? As much as we get the sense of these powers and stuff of this 9-year-old, it's whenever we're reading the book, it's very easy to forget that they're not 9-year-olds. If you see, I mean, it's good that they're always reminding us. But because we're reading a book, if you see, I mean, we don't have that constant picture of Ganima and Leto being 9 years of age. And whenever we do remember, that these children are full of terror, fear. As much as he sounds confident and stuff, he's really scared. He's very, very scared. He's terrorized, this kid here. Putting on a brave front, I think that's what I got from it. But yeah, is it that they need to separate and need to deal with the separate fears? And I suppose the interesting thing is that what they're doing, I suppose the fear of what their situation may be, has created their plan, which is forces them to be separated, will give them different situations and different fears to be faced, I suppose, he acknowledges the fear feedback loop. Yeah. And fear defeating Alia as well. Fear is our mind killer here, literally a killing of a personality. But yeah, he's still got my sympathies. I feel for the kid here. He's being tortured. He's being drugged and tortured by basically his nearest and dearest with the help of a couple of Farad'n. And it's about to get a little bit odd. So I've written at the top here, we have the light without and the darkness within. Leto felt bright light outside himself and darkness within. But the darkness was secretive, protective, and warm. The light began to blaze up, and he felt that it came from the darkness within, swirling outward like a brilliant cloud. His body became transparent, drawing him upward, yet he retained that Einfall contact with every cell and nerve. The multitude of inner lives fell into alignment, nothing tangled or mixed. They became very quiet in duplication of his own inner silence, each memory life discrete, an entity incorporeal and undivided. Multitude, so that everybody inside fallen into alignment, Nothing tangled or mixed. They became very quiet. They've lined up and shut up, basically, inside him. Discreet, incorporeal, and undivided. Leto spoke to them then. So this is his little speech to the multitude. And we had just mentioned the previous epigraph? Yes, from chapter 42. There is no guilt or innocence in you. All of that is past. Guilt belabors the dead, and I am not the iron hammer. You, multitude of the dead, are merely people who have done certain things, and the memory of those things illuminates my path. So that was the epigraph previous now. Previous to this chapter, now we have him actually speaking to them within this chapter. This is what he says to them then. He spoke to them then. I am your spirit. I am the only life you can realize. I am the house of your spirit in the land which is nowhere, the land which is your only remaining home. Without me, the intelligible universe reverts to chaos. Creative and abysmal are inextricably linked in me. Only I can mediate between them. Without me, mankind will sink into the mire and vanity of knowing. Through me, you and they will find the only way out of chaos, understanding by living. With this, he let go of himself and became himself, his own person, encompassing the entirety of his past. It was not a victory, not defeat, but a new thing to be shared with any inner life he chose. Leto savored this newness, letting it possess every cell, every nerve, giving up what the Einfall had presented to him and recovering the totality in the same instant. After a time, he awoke in white darkness. With a flash of awareness, he knew where his flesh was, seated on sand about a kilometre from the cliff wall which marked the northern boundary of the Sietch. He knew that Sietch now, Jacurutu, for certain, and Fondak, but it was far different from the myths and legends and rumours which the smugglers allowed. Now I've put just next to this one, see chapter 39, note 14 for this previous vision. But this is a young woman sat on a rug directly in front of him, a bright glow globe anchored to her left sleeve and drifting just above her head. When Leto looked away from the glow globe, there were stars. He knew this young woman. She was the one from his vision earlier, the roaster of coffee. She was Namri's niece, as ready with a knife as Namri was. There was the knife in her lap. She wore a simple green robe over a grey stillsuit. Sabiha, that was her name, and Namri had his own plans for her. Pardon me, that sounds ominous, doesn't it? There's a couple of just little things there about it, but yeah, he's basically telling I suppose, the inner lives that the only life you get is through me. So behave, and I'm the only thing that can stop the chaos. Understanding by living. That's how we're going to do it. Anyway, the next little bit after that, as we said, just to say, this is really the emergence of the core. Really, as far as we can see, the core singular personality that is Leto himself here. I've written just that above this here. I just put it's Leto himself. There's a bit of an Irish thing to say. With this, he let go of himself and became himself. So it's a birth, rebirth, death, rebirth, if you like, his own person. He became himself, his own person, encompassing the entirety of his past. It was not a victory, not defeat, but a new thing. To be shared with any inner life he chose. He savoured this newness, letting it possess every cell, every nerve, giving up what the Einfall had presented to him and recovering the totality in the same instant. So he's back in control of all of he has the full prana bindu, if you like, of his self, his body, mind and nerve, mind and muscle, all of this kind of thing. muscle and fibre, isn't that it? Nerve and fibre. Sorry, I'll get there eventually. And whenever he awakes, the white darkness, that's the light from within the dark, this kind of thing, a flash of awareness, he knew where his flesh was. So he's found it. He's found his own reality at last out of the trance, if you see what I mean. That's what and he's drinking in what's around him. And the person on the rug, as I said previously, when he's going through the vision in this chapter, he thinks it's Namri. It's not. It's this young woman, Sabiha. And again, she's wearing a green robe, that color, but that's that life, death and life, that kind of thing that we mentioned before. And Namri had his own plans for her. And I've just written next to that, sounds ominous. Sabiha saw the awakening in his eyes, said, "It's almost dawn. You've spent the whole night here. And most of a day," he said. "You make good coffee." This statement puzzled her, but she ignored it with a single-mindedness which spoke of harsh training and explicit instructions for her present behavior. "It's the hour of assassins," Leto said, "but your knife is no longer needed." He glanced at the crysknife in her lap. "Namri will be the judge of that." "Not Halleck, then?" Oh, sorry, Leto's thoughts here. "Not Halleck, then." She only confirmed his inner knowledge. Now, I've just written next that it's supposed to be Halleck who judges him, and Namri who would carry out the sentence, because Halleck would not be capable of killing Leto. And I've written next to this that I suppose Sabiha has revealed this, perhaps that she shouldn't have. Namri will be the judge of that. It's a revelation, isn't it? Not Halleck, then. She only confirmed his inner knowledge. That's I've written next to that. Again, I haven't read ahead. I don't remember, so I've written next to that, betrayal. Have we had an inner betrayal and an outer betrayal? If you see what I mean. A betrayal within the trance world and a betrayal within the real world. It seems that Namri is going to judge him regardless of what Halleck wants. Shai Hulud is a great, this is Leto, Shai Hulud is a great collector and eraser of unwanted evidence, Leto said. I've used him thus myself. We get a nice little sort of back and forth between the two, where we get a description of her and then Leto saying something or behaving in between, if you like. It's building up a little bit of tension and then a little bit of relief at the end of it. I think it's done well. It's a nice little bit of writing here. So I've used him thus myself. She rested her hand lightly on the knife handle. How much is revealed by where we sit and how we sit, he said. You sit upon the rug and I upon the sand. Her hands closed over the knife handle. Leto yawned, a gaping and stretching which made his jaw ache. I've had a vision which included you, he said. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. We've been very one-sided about Arrakis, he said. Barbaric of us. There's a certain momentum in what we've been doing, but now we must undo some of our work. The scales must be brought into better balance. A puzzled frown touched Sabiha's face. My vision, he said. Unless we restore the dance of life here on Dune, the dragon on the floor of the desert will be no more. Because he'd used the old Fremen for the great worm, she was a moment understanding him. Then, the worms? We're in a dark passage, he said. Without spice, the empire falls apart. The guild will not move. Planets will slowly lose their clear memories of each other. They'll turn inward upon themselves. Space will become a boundary when the guild navigators lose their mastery. We'll cling to our dune tops and be ignorant of that which is above and below us. Sorry, yeah, let's lose. Just fix that. You speak very strangely, she said. Have you seen me in your vision? And Leto's thoughts here: trust, Fremen, superstition, he thought. He said, I have become passigraphic. I am a living glyph to write out the changes which must come to pass. If I do not write them, you'll encounter such heartache as no human should experience. Now, let's see. So he's told her he's had a vision, which is included. The chapter began with, just to get there very quickly, that's kind of where it was relevant, if you like, in terms of Leto's thinking. The very beginning, his thoughts were the touch of sand is important. Leto told himself, that's how our chapter begins. But just what he said here, how much is revealed by where we sit and how we sit. You sit upon the rug and I upon the sand. The touch of sand is important. Is she connected to Arrakis in that way? Or is it more, you get me? She's not, I was wondering why we had that there, but it's relevant to Sabiha here. So he tells her I had a vision which included you. And then basically going on to say that we've basically messed up. We've gone about things. They gathered momentum. Things went too quickly. It's time to undo some of the work that the Atreides have done in relation to the ecology of Dune is what he's talking about here. My vision, unless we restore the dance of life here on Dune, the dragon on the floor of the desert will be no more. And that's, of course, the worms. And he basically gives us a little bit of a speech. We're in a dark passage. What will happen to the universe if all the spice goes? Pretty much the guild will not move. Navigators will lose their mastery. People will lose their connection to other worlds. Everybody becomes isolated. So I've become passigraphic. He says, trust, Fremen, superstition. This metaphor here, I've become passigraphic. I'm a living glyph to write out the changes which must come to pass. If I do not write them, you'll encounter such heartache as no human should experience. Now, passigraphic is the adjective referring to passigraphy. Passigraphy is from a Greek word passi, which means to all, and grapho, graphing, to write, to something that you to write all. And passigraphic, passigraphy is basically a writing system, isn't it? That let me look this up, I suppose, rather than me trying to paraphrase it. That uses symbols to convey entire ideas or notions rather than any individual word, I suppose. Does that make sense? Let's see what it says here. There's what passigraphy, if you want to have a look at it on Wikipedia. Tell you what, let me just grab the link for you. This is interesting. Blah, 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 ping. There we go. Bosh. Passigraphy. From the Greek passi to all, grapho to write is a writing system where each written symbol represents a concept rather than a word or sound or series of sounds in a spoken language. The aim is to be intelligible to persons of all language. The term first applied to a system proposed in 1796, though a number of passigraphies have been devised prior to that. Leopold Einstein reviews 60 attempts at creating an international auxiliary language. The majority of the 17th, 18th century projects being passigraphies of one kind or another. So you can have a wee look at a few of them there. There's some quite interesting things. Examples of passigraphies include bliss symbols, real character, eye kanji, and Yerkish. There we go. It kind of got me thinking a little bit about, it's probably not similar. I thought it was a little bit similar. It made me think about Marian, which is the culture's language. But I don't think it's quite the same thing. But I thought they were kind of like 3D glyphs. I thought there was like 3D characters that worked in different ways. Must have a wee nosy at Marian again. So this in my text has Shai Hulud is a great garbage collector. Hang on. Here we go. Right, that's that. Let me just check. is a great collector I've got. Let me see. That's 43. Bear with me. Oh, that's my fault. Yep, thank you very much. Cynthia, I've left the word out. He is indeed a great garbage collector. Eraser of unwanted evidence. Thank you. I'll just put that in. That's my fault. There we go. So yeah, passographic, passography writing systems which relate to concepts. So what he's saying here is, I've become passographic. I am a living glyph. I'm a symbol. Think of it as like it's like a metaphor for a symbol that represents an entire concept. That's what he's saying here. To write out the changes which must come to pass. If I do not write them, you'll encounter such heartache as no human should experience. So he's passographic. In other words, he's like a glyph or a symbol or an icon, if you want, that represents this entire concept of probably the golden path, fixing the ecology of Dune, the dance of life, all of this. He will be that one symbol, if you like. I think it's a very interesting bit of writing from Frank. Not your everyday term, is it? Passographic. I think it's very cool. I certainly like things like that. So, something a little bit interesting also coming up here. What words are these? She asked, but her hand remained lightly on the knife. Leto turned his head towards the cliffs of Jacurutu, seeing the beginning glow, which would be hang on, let me just check. I think I've messed that up there. 56, which would be second moon. Which would be okay. I'll read that again. Sorry, folks. Leto turned his head towards the cliffs of Jacurutu, seeing the beginning glow, which would be second moon, making its pre-dawn passage behind the rocks. It would be the second moon. I think maybe there's a word missing there. Oh, my eyes. Oh, bear with me a wee second, folks. I might have to get some eye drops in a wee second or two. Oh, pardon me. That's a lot of pollen here at the minute. We've got a lot of rain too. Our summer's rubbish at the moment. Absolutely awful. No, sorry, back to this. Yes, so what words are these? She asked, but her hand remained lightly on the knife. Leto turned his head towards the cliffs of Jacurutu, seeing the beginning glow, which would be the second moon making its pre-dawn passage behind the rocks. The death scream of a desert hare shocked its way through him. He saw Sabiha shudder. There came a beating of wings, a predator bird, night creature here. He saw the ember glow of many eyes as they swept past above him, headed for crannies in the cliffs. I must follow the dictates of my new heart, Leto said. You look upon me as a mere child, Sabiha. But if they warn me about you, Sabiha said, and now her shoulders were stiff with readiness, so get that tension back in here. Now, the death scream of a desert hare. What we've got here is Leto saying, we've been one-sided about Arrakis, we've built up a momentum in what we're doing, but we've got to now undo it. And in other words, we're going to undo the dream of Leto and Pardo Kynes. And I'm become passographic. I'm going to be a symbol for the entire concept of undoing this. Was it the dance of life? We're going to learn by living this kind of thing, better balance, all of these things. He will be that one symbol for it. And she's saying, what are you talking about? What words are these? As he turned his head towards then we get this death scream of a desert hare. Shocked its way through him. He saw Sabiha shudder, etc. Get the beating of wings of predator bird, night creature here. Many eyes as they swept past above him, headed for the crannies of the cliff. I must follow the dictates of my new heart. You look upon me as a mere child, Sabiha, but if And she says, they warned me about you. Now, the desert hare there, the death scream of a desert hare, I think, represents the death knell of Leto Kynes' ecological dream. I don't know what you think about this, but if you recall the descriptions of Leto Kynes, let me just see if I can look him up on some kind of wiki thing. He wears a little symbol of he has a badge of a hare. It's his little symbol. Oh, let me see. Bear with me a wee second, folks. See if I can find it for us. Ebooks, come on. June, right. Rubbish thing. Here we go. This is from Dune. It's a description of Kynes. Paul sat back. He had used the questions and hyper-awareness to do what his mother called registering the person. He had Kynes now, tune of voice, each detail of face and gesture. An unnatural folding of the left sleeve of the man's robe told of a knife in an arm sheath. The waist bulged strangely. It was said that desert men wore a belted sash into which they tucked small necessities. Perhaps the bulges came from such a sash, certainly not from a concealed shield belt. A copper pin engraved with the likeness of a hare clasped the neck of Kynes' robe. Another smaller pin with similar likeness hung at the corner of the hood, which was thrown back over his shoulders. Oh, next time hare's mentioned, it's a dinner. Roast desert hare and sauce Sabiha. Aploma Syrian, chuck it under glass, coffee with melange. Oh, it's part of a nice tasty meal. And of course, the desert hare is one of the animals of Dune itself. There we go. So the symbol, the hare is associated with Kynes. And it's pretty much the only thing, it's the only time we don't get it mentioned really much. Very quickly. So I think that is very much a representation of Kynes' dream. The hare in Irish mythology is associated with, let me see, how have we got it here? What does it say here? The hare is a potent symbol of magic, the otherworld, and transformation. Often depicted as a shapeshifter, the hare is believed to be a link between the mortal realm and the fairy world. It is associated with both fertility and the moon, and is treated with respect, sometimes even reverence in folklore. So yes, indeed, hares are, part of our folklore here. So I think just the death scream of the desert hare, of all the things that we hear, it shocked its way through him. It makes Sabiha shudder. Why should it? It surely is one of the natural sounds of the desert. It gives them both, it really does scare them a bit here. I think that represents the death of Kynes' ecological dream. And immediately following that, Leto, and I think Leto knows that, or it has that sense to him. But it's just a wee point here that Kynes wears the two badges that have a hare representation on them. Hare as in like wabbit. But immediately after, I must follow the dictates of my new heart, Leto said. You look upon me as a mere child, Sabiha, but if they warned me about you, Sabiha said, and now her shoulders were stiff with readiness, tensions back. He heard the fear in her voice, said, Don't fear me, Sabiha. You've lived 8 more years than this flesh of mine. For that I honor you. But I have untold 1,000 more years of other lives, far more than you have known. Don't look upon me as a child. I have bridged the many futures and, in one, saw us entwined in love. You and I, Sabiha. What are... This can't... She broke off in confusion. The idea could grow on you, he said. Now help me back to the Sietch, for I've been in far places, and am weak with the weariness of my travels. Namri must hear where I have been. He saw the indecision in her and said, he saw the indecision in her, said, Am I not the guest of the cavern? Namri must learn what I have learned. We have many things to do lest our universe degenerate. I don't believe that. About the worms, she said, nor about us entwined in love. She shook her head, but he could see her thoughts drifting through her mind like wind-blown feathers. His words both attracted and repelled her. To be consort of power, that certainly carried high allure. Yet there were her uncle's orders. But one day this son of Muad'Dib might rule here on Dune, and in the farthest reaches of their universe. She encountered then an extremely Fremen, cavern-hiding aversion to such a future. The consort of Leto would be seen by everyone, would be an object of gossip and speculation. She could have wealth, though, and so the idea of being this powerful kind of kicks in an almost automatic Fremen response I wouldn't want that to be out in the public eye. I'd rather be in my cave. But then she, bit of money, bit of cash, well, maybe she considers it, and it's a possible future. I suppose at this point, Leto's 9, that makes her 17. I think I've put here, isn't it? You've lived 8 more years than this flesh of mine. He's 8, 9 and 8, 17. Yeah, she's 17. I am the son of Muad'Dib, able to see the future, he said. Slowly she replaced her knife in its sheath, lifted herself easily from the rug, crossed to his side and helped him to his feet. Leto found himself amused by her actions. Then she folded the rug neatly and draped it across her right shoulder. He saw her measuring the differences in their sizes, reflecting upon his words, entwined in love. We get Leto's thoughts. Size is another thing that changes, he thought. And I think that's not in kind of relation to him sort of growing up a little bit. I think that's in relation to him becoming what he's going to become, if you see what I mean. She put a hand on his arm, then to help him. She put a hand on his arm, then to help him and control him. She put a hand on his arm then to help him and control him. He stumbled, and she spoke sharply. We're too far from the Sietch for that. Meaning the unwanted sound which might attract a worm. Pardon me. So he's making noises that they shouldn't make. That they're not that far from a Sietch. Or they're far enough, I suppose, for a worm to be a problem. Leto felt that his body had become a dry shell. Like that abandoned by an insect. He knew this shell. It was one with the society which had been built upon the melange trade and its religion of the golden elixir. It was emptied by its excesses. Muad'Dib's high aims had fallen into wizardry, which was enforced by the military arm of Akwaf. Muad'Dib's religion had another name now. It was Xian San Shao, an Ixian label, which designated the intensity and insanity of those who thought they could bring the universe to paradise at the point of a crysknife. But that too would change as Ix had changed, for they were merely the 9th planet of their sun and had even forgotten the language which had given them their name. The jihad was a kind of mass insanity, he muttered. Now, Xian Shan Shao, I'm going to go Xian is Chinese immortal or wizard. San is 3. I don't know what to make of this one. And Shao has a number of different meanings, which can include somewhat, a little, small, young, or also child. I don't know. So let's see. Muad'Dib's high aims had fallen into wizardry, which was enforced by the military arm of Aquaf. Muad'Dib's religion had another name now. It was Shen Shan Shou. So the best I can make is it's like the 3 little. Oh, suppose about 3 little wizards, the 3 little immortals. I think possibly is what I would get from that. I don't know if anybody else has got anything on that one. But that's kind of what those words mean, I suppose, you know. Cynthia said, I like the linking the Hare and kinds. He hasn't the eco policy of the Atreides, but hasn't the eco policy of the Atreides rapidly greening the planet already altered kinds' plans of gradual change? Yeah, I think it. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we get the sense that it's the speed of it, really, isn't it? Is one thing. Yeah. At the same time, I think Paul's meant to be the inheritor of kinds' plans and of gradual change, long-term thinking with kinds, not long-term enough. This kind of thing. The Atreides turn up, take over, and make it happen almost overnight. Like a sort of 12, 13-year-old period, you know. Yeah. You've already altered kinds' plans. I suppose it has. But is this the death now? I don't know. I just thought, as you say, you like linking the Hare and the kinds. I wondered what on earth is this desert hare? Why is it there? And the first thing I remembered way back, because I think we talked about it in terms of just what that animal would relate to, but just the hare in different types of mythology, I suppose. I remembered having a wee natter about it, but I just remembered that I thought he had one badge. He's actually got 2 hares, 2 little hares, as his clasps. So I just thought that it was a thing to associate with kinds. Death screen of a desert hare, and also, as I said, the thing that's here, something that made it a bit odd is why is it shocking? You know, we're all told about the natural signs of the desert, and you know the night creatures, the predators. All of this should be perfectly natural. It makes her shudder, but it's shocked its way through him as well. And then following up, the ember glow of many eyes as they swept past above him, headed for crannies in the cliffs. It's almost like the living things of Arrakis are just running for it, you know. So I get what you're saying. As kinds' ecological dreams not long already not long dead, most likely I think, are certainly not going to happen the way he planned it. I suppose his death is a moment of realization, isn't it, Cynthia, that he's got it wrong? You know, I suppose, you know, so maybe I don't know, maybe it's just I was kind of more seeing this as like an omen almost. That seems to unnaturally affect Sabiha and Leto here. And what's the one thing I think of with the desert hare is kinds, and we're talking about the death of the way the Atreides are doing things here, that it's time to change. You know, restore the dance of life. And again, I think that the other thing is that Kynes never maybe foresaw the worms going. He hadn't figured out the connections and all of it. As I said, it's the moment of his death where he's got it. Now, oh no, we've got it wrong, and he hasn't. He understands it all, and it's I'm a desert creature. Boom. You need the desert. Where are we? Let's see. Changes. Yes, size is another thing that changes. Far too away from. We're too far from the sietch for that, meaning the unwanted sound which might attract a worm. Leto felt that his body had become a dry. Oh, we've read that. Sorry. Where were we? Shen San Shao. An Ixian label was designated which designated the intensity and insanity of those who thought they could bring the universe to paradise at the point of a crysknife. But that too would change as Ix had changed, for they were merely the 9th planet of their sun and had even forgotten the language which had given them their name. And then Leto said that the jihad was a kind of maths and insanity. So we had a wee chat about Shen Shan Shou. X, again, Roman numerals. X is 9. The 9th planet would be a strong suggestion that it's the planet Pluto of the solar system. There's also the X monogram, isn't it? It's iota and chi, I suppose. That's kind of what I always got with X, that it was X was Pluto. I don't know if you'd agree. Or maybe was it Neil deGrasse Tyson getting rid of Pluto as a planet? Maybe that's something. It's something else. Then we have to change our opinion. But there we go. X, the language that we would be talking about would of course be Latin. So back to Sabiha here. Sabiha had been concentrating on the problem of making him walk without rhythm, hiding their presence out here on open sand. She was a moment focusing on his words, then interpreted them as another product of his obvious fatigue. She felt the weakness of him, the way he'd been drained by the trance. It seemed pointless and cruel to her. If he were to be killed, as Namri said, then it should be done quickly without all of this byplay. Leto had spoken of a marvelous revelation, though. Perhaps that was what Namri sought. Certainly, that must be the motive behind the behavior of this child's own grandmother. Why else would Our Lady of Dune give her sanction to these perilous acts against the child? Child! Again, she reflected upon his words. They were at the cliff base now, and she stopped her charge. Sorry, I'll read that again. They were at the cliff base now, and she stopped her charge, letting him relax a moment here where it was safer. Looking down at him in the dim starlight, she asked, "How could there be no more worms?" "Only I can change that," he said. "Have no fear. I can change anything." "But it's... some questions have no answers," he said. Sorry, I'll read that again. "Some questions have no answers," he said. "I've seen that future, but the contradictions would only confuse you. This is a changing universe, and we are the strangest change of all. We resonate too many influences. Our futures need constant updating. Now, there's a barrier which we must remove. This requires that we do brutal things, that we go against our most basic, our dearest wishes, but it must be done." What must be done? Now, just before we go any further, I just want to jump back a wee bit here. Sorry, I was just going to say, why else would Our Lady of Dune? I kind of read that almost in a funny way. Why else would Our Lady of Dune? I don't think I should have done that. So just simply, why else? I think it should be probably the right amount of reverence there. Why else would Our Lady of Dune give her sanction to these perilous acts against the child? Just her language there, it wouldn't have been like that, I think. Child. Again, she reflected upon his words. It's the one constant almost with the twins that they keep letting people know, I'm not a child. So it must be a bit weird for her here. Leto is basically acting as what we would call jailbait, pretty much. But she's realizing that he's a route to power, I suppose. With this little vision, he's dangled the vision of her future in front of her. And it's very interesting to see. Here's an example of what a prescient vision can do to someone. A little bit of knowledge about your future. What will it make you do? How will it make you behave? Will it change how you behave? Does she see herself as being empress of the universe at this point? I think is the question. The word, how can there be no more worms? It's shocking to her, I think. Only I can change that, he said. Have no fear. I can change anything. But it's... So he said, some questions have no answers. And I've written next to that, no. I'll explain in a moment. Well, no, what the hell? What is it? It's the old... there's an old urban legend about this kind of thing, isn't there? I don't know if you know this one. It's supposed to be a philosophy exam at one of the Oxford universities. And it's a finals exam, and the question on the exam paper is this a question? And the old urban legend is all sorts of people write all sorts of things trying to answer whether the thing is a question, but someone rather adroitly sort of puts a single line answer, which is if this is an answer, then that is a question. So in that sense, some questions have no answers. That's not true. They all have answers. They're not necessarily correct or pertinent, if you see what I mean. And I don't know can be an answer to a question. So for something to be a question, I think there's some paradoxical things going on in this chapter, actually, but for something to be a question, I would assume it has to have an answer. If that makes sense. I'm getting barked at. Did someone... I think I sensed a bark in the background there. So just to be my usual pedantic self here, some questions have no answers. I've written next to that, no. Pardon me. So I've seen the future, but the contradictions would only confuse you. It's a changing universe, and we're the strangest change of all. We resonate too many influences. Our futures need constant updating. Now there is a barrier which we must remove. This requires that we do brutal things. What's the barrier that must be removed? It's that we resonate too many influences, and our futures need constant updating. So this requires that we do brutal things, that we go against our most basic, our dearest wishes, but it must be done. What must be done? Have you ever killed a friend? He asked, and turning, led the way into the gap, which sloped upward to the Sietch's hidden entrance. He moved as quickly as his trance fatigue would permit, but she was right behind him, clutching his robe and pulling him to a stop. What's this of killing a friend? He'll die anyway, Leto said. I don't have to do it, but I could prevent it. If I don't prevent it, is that not killing him? Who is this? Who will die? Suspense. The alternative keeps me silent, he said. I might have to give my sister to a monster. Again, he turned away from her, and this time, when she pulled at his robe, he resisted, refusing to answer her questions. And I've written next to that, ours too. And the chapter ends with Leto's thoughts. Best she not know until the time comes, he thought. Again, something a little bit ominous. And who's the friend that he's going to have to kill? I have a wee bit of an idea, but I don't actually know. I don't remember. And in fact, I think the statement works on a number of levels, actually. The person that will die anyway, but if I don't do it, I don't have to do it, but I could prevent it. If I don't prevent it, it is that's not killing him. Who is this? Who will die? The alternative keeps me silent. I might have to give my sister to a monster. That's the alternative. Who's the monster? So it's interesting. I think you can take some double meanings from that. And as I said, I haven't read it forward, folks, so I can't answer these questions. I'm in the position of a new reader, and so just a whole dump of tension and suspense there. Who is the friend that's going to be killed? And again, I'm kind of running with it. It's working on a more than one level. I think that the friend that's going to be killed is Leto himself. He's going to kill himself in a funny kind of way, if you see what I mean. But I think there's someone else here as well. Who is this friend? I honestly can't remember. So I look forward to finding out. But there, we've hit the end of the chapter, folks. It's a really intriguing chapter. And we've got more and more of what Leto is becoming, emerging. We've got the great surprise that we've had a bit of a revolt by other memory, and that Harum, this individual God King that he's basically picked out to keep everybody in line, has betrayed him as well. And we get the sense that there's betrayal. So that's betrayal within the trance, within the other memory, the inner lives. And we also get a sense from what Sabiha reveals here that there's also betrayal from Namri. And I'm trying to wonder, is he the friend that has to get killed? I can't remember. So hopefully we'll get there soon. But it's great. We're pushing along with this. It's a great chapter for Leto. There's some interesting little things in this. And Sabiha is an interesting character. The question, there's a couple of little curiosities that have been left hanging for us. What is it exactly that Namri wants for his niece? What's the plan he has for her? I'm curious about that. Is it an attempt to possibly marry her to Leto? And I think it's interesting that Sabiha herself here questions Jessica. Wondering what's the motive behind the behavior of this child's own grandmother. It's why else would she be doing this? These perilous acts against the child. Is this a child? As I said, we have Leto kind of in control now internally, by the looks of it. This internal battle has been won, where he's now got proper control, not the illusion of control that he had previously, but proper control over the inner lives. And very interesting, just to say it out loud again, is we've got another Baron Harkonnen in this chapter. There are two Baron Harkonnens active in the Dune world at the minute, in the Dune universe, and this is the third iteration that we have of the Baron. As we were saying before, it's possible that there's a Baron kicking off inside Ganima as well. And I'm wondering, it's been a long time since I read this book, I'm wondering if he's going to make an appearance, because I was kind of curious, would we see an unholy triumvirate of Baron Harkonnens? I think it's pretty interesting. Well, there we go, folks. Goodness gracious, we tore through that, didn't we? We got through that a lot quicker than I thought. That took me a fair bit of scribbling, I have to say. Let's have a wee look and see what's ahead. Next chapter is 44. 2, 3, 4. I've got 5.5. 45. And just a few. Yeah, that looks like a double, I think. Let me just check 44 at the front of my book. I've got 44 and 45 to be done together. So again, these chapters, they're put two of these together and you kind of get a full-length chapter, if you like. So for next week, we'll be running with chapter 44 and 45. There we go. So very interesting chapter. We're getting closer and closer to the emergence of Leto and the full transformation of him. He's going through this elaborate Gom Jabbar that Jessica set up for him at Jacurutu, enticed in by the myth, etc. It's really interesting, and we're getting these parallels with Jessica working at Farad'n at the minute, as somebody pointed out, almost like a surrogate for her own children, grandchildren, But let's see where are we at the next one. Are we back to Ali, I think, again? Possibly. Sorry, I'll have to check. I said I haven't read ahead there. But yeah, we'll have a couple of short chapters for next time. 44 and 45 for next Thursday at 10 p.m. GMT +1. Working away at past stuff, had things like wedding anniversaries and stuff like that this last week, etc. I'm off to the dentist in the morning, which is why I'm going to get out of here pretty quick, folks. Getting all these wee sort of medical appointments done this week. My last one is Monday for bloods, and then I'm kind of a wee bit free with this kind of stuff. So as I said, hoping to start doing a few things from probably next week or the week after. We'll see. But trying to get a little bit of work done for the channel. Want to get another little kind of probably going to run with a Friday. Might call it a sci-fi Ulster Fry or something like that. But we're going to start trying to go through our A to Z of science fiction. I'm going to do some work on the history of sci-fi as well. So I'm really enjoying the book at this point. And for me, some great tension building in there. A whole lot of suspense. Who's this friend that we're going to kill? Oh, goodness. And again, I genuinely don't remember. So for next time, I'll be hope maybe we'll find it, maybe we won't. But I'm loving the way Frank's sort of pushing the action, pushing the tension, and building this change within Leto that, quite frankly, no one's ever going to kind of. Really, we're not going to. If this is the first time reading this book, you're not going to see this coming at all, are you? Yeah, very much looking forward to it. But we're starting to sort of see this notion of what Leto is going to get up to, and what they've done to Arrakis is enormously damaging. And yes, I thought that little thing with the Hare being killed there, I thought that was interesting. I said that symbolically, I think that has something to do with Liam Kynes and his ecological dreams. There we go. There's Cynthia saying thanks, Doc, and all. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, everybody, as usual. Goodness gracious, I'm knackered. So I'll say goodnight. Thank you as always for your contributions and your help and your questions and your interest. And it's been an interesting one tonight. I've really enjoyed running through it. Got through that one a lot quicker than I thought I would. I'll be back next Thursday at 10 p.m. GMT +1 with chapters 44 and 45 of Children of Dune. This is the copy I'm working with, so that's page 298 in this one. Chapter 44 begins with natural selection has been described as an environment selectively screening for those who will have progeny. That's the epigraph that starts there. Chapter 45 in my copy is 304, and it has the beginning epigraph. One small bird has called thee from a big street crimson. It cried once over Sietch to bar, and thou went forth onto funeral plain. Lament for Leto to sing. There you go, one of Frank's wee lamentable songs. Just fold my page there. There we go, folks. So listen, I will wrap up. I'll say thank you very much for joining me as always. Look after yourselves. Take care. Be safe no matter where you are. And we'll see you all real soon for our next 2 chapters of Children of Dune. Thanks very much as always, and take care. Good night. Bye bye.